Hi everybody, welcome to the Butterfly Art Project annual exhibition. And um, yeah, my name is Zaid. I am a community art facilitator, which means that I run art therapeutic art classes in communities, mostly in under-resourced communities. But my that's my own practice. What I also do is that I am the community art facilitator training and mentoring program manager, which is quite a mouthful. But if you can just imagine that we have many community art facilitators across South Africa, all of them working autonomously, all of them working with their own community groups, bringing healing arts and making it accessible to all. And today we are going to do a run through our exhibition. And the exhibition is a collection of artworks from the last theme. But I'm going to talk more about that a little bit later. So, the Butterfly Art Project, you can come on first. The Butterfly Art Project, we're currently at Constantia at the Iziko Museum. So if you find yourself in the area, please pop by. It's a freestanding exhibition. We originally were going to be open until the 31st of July, but we got extended to the end of August. So you're welcome to come on by and just have a look. As you can see, beautiful entrance and our beautiful posters. And I hope the camera light adjusts in here. But what I would love to share is that in this particular room, we have mainly all of the artworks from our, obviously our community art facilitators, but also from our team members. So even though Butterfly Art Project, we function as an organization, but during team meetings, and during when we study particular cases with children, we also encourage our facilitators and our team members to actually experience the healing arts that we talk about. And this is a really clever way of keeping them engaged and letting them understand the work that they do. So even if we have a person like Dirk who is in finance, but he also gets at least an opportunity a few times a year to experience healing art. Cool. So one of my favorite artworks in the exhibition is our building bridges. Building bridges is an art therapeutic activity that we sort of do as a group exercise. So people would start with individual blocks or pieces of paper. They would undergo a particular process, either like what their influences is, or there's a particular theme around it, what do they bring. This current artwork we looked at when all of our community art facilitators are finished trained in the Early Beginnings program. We came together and we had an alumni event. So the 20 community art facilitators that we just newly trained, they also got to meet the wider network, and we met up at the site Smocker for a little bit of art exercises and networking and art activity. And then we also had a beautiful walk up into the gallery where they could experience what it would be like to take their children onto excursions. And for the art activity on that day, this is what was created. And we particularly looked at each community art facilitator sort of linked up and created an abstract artwork that represents or was representative of their journey as a community art facilitator. And we pieced that all together, and then the entire collective of community art facilitators came together and pieced it all together. And so that's really just what I see as, like a wonderful analogy of how we are all individuals, part of one bigger network or movement. Something else that I'd love to point out is one of our artworks which we call the pizza expression. That's one of my favorite things to practice, especially when you're working with new groups. And this is what we did last year with our board of directorates. So we have pieces of our treasurer and our chairperson and our directors, and they all came together and they had a strategic meeting. And it was also a day where they got to meet the team. And how this works is that they have to demonstrate a journey on a pizza slice from where they are at currently to where they are going. And there's a little bit of instructions and guidance that we give them, but this is the artwork that they created and they piece it all together. And what I love about this artwork is that it's really just representative of all of their journeys, and knowing that these are the people that are sort of the pioneers or the people that's taking Butterfly Art Project forward. And again, it's just so important for me to make sure that everybody who's involved in Butterfly Art Project understands the importance of healing art and really get to experience the tools for themselves. So yeah, that's the pizza expression. On this side, we also have a really interesting artwork that's called Our Ocean. It was done by one of our community art facilitators called Madge. She works with a community group, a few severely neglected children from the community in Philippi. They known as Jim the Boss. And she would get them all together where they all have to draw little fish. And they use this board as a storyboard and how they interact with the little fish. And those fish then get sort of marked and placed, and eventually they create this tableau of an artwork, which I just think is so wonderful. And I think it's also really indicative of just understanding and letting kids have a space where they can digest and share their stories and interact in a positive way and in a safe environment. What I'd also love to show you is that the Butterfly Art Project has all sorts of small little fundraisers. We have, little rings made from clay. I don't know if you can see that very well. We have necklaces and beadworks. We also got some really cute little pin badges, and we also have some postcards, and these are actual artworks that the kids have made over the years. And so we do reprints of them, and this is a way that people can actually take away something that means something. They can experience one of our healing art projects in the size of a postcard and also support Butterfly Art Project. So at the end of this video, I'm sure we will drop off some details, or in the description we'll share how people can get connected and actually become a friend of BAP. So our Friends of BAP campaign is sort of, in a sense, a fundraising campaign where people can apply and get a membership fee. For a small membership, they can then participate in any of the healing art classes that we offer. Like an artist hub, they get invited to a private tour of the exhibition. They even get digital postcards sent to them of artworks that we've produced in the year. So yeah, and even some healing art activity sheets that they can do themselves. So we will definitely drop some of those details down. So one of the most important things that I find in creating a healing art space is actually setting some ground rules. However, at Butterfly Art Project, we don't like the idea of rules. Or we don't like the sound of it, because a rule is something that you enforce and you have to abide to, and instead we try to create a more healing and safe space with all of our children. And so what we often do is we create classroom agreements. In this case, here are 3 different examples of classroom agreements that we have done. These classroom agreements are what the kids actually agree to. They agree to coming into the space and listening and being kind and being respectful and being in a non-judgmental space and being together and having fun. And this is sort of, for me, one of the first steps of really creating that safe space. I think a lot of people understand art therapeutic interventions as it's the actual artwork, but it actually has a lot to do with the physical space and what we offer the kids and how we ensure that they feel safe, that they can express. And I think these little posters are just so beautiful because it's a reminder of each child agreeing and showing that they agree, and also just making it beautiful, so that the classroom that ultimately rules, or the classroom tone is set, but they also feel an affinity towards it. They also feel like they can connect to it because they are part of it all, and it's not some adult saying this is how you have to be. I'm going to squat down over here, and I'd love to show you a little bit of more artworks as well. So in this exhibition space, we try to be as child inclusive as well as disability inclusive. So for wheelchair enabled people, we dropped some of the artworks lower so that people can actually view from a different angle, and so that children can engage. And so if you're wondering why some of the artworks are low, that's actually the reason. It's deliberately done so. And I'd also just love to walk you through some of the artworks that some of our kids have done. So this is particularly from Cleon's group. I'm going to read the caption for you, if that's okay. And it basically says, the children here were tasked to draw whimsical, crooked houses, trees, and other Halloween-themed shapes using dark oil pastels on watercolor paper. They then used white oil pastels to draw spider webs and painted over the entire image. This resisted the wax underneath. The oil pastels magically reappeared, creating a unique layered effect. Through this project, the children learned about the history and origins of Halloween while experimenting with wax resist technique to make their own spooky, one-of-a-kind artwork. And you can really see that. You can come on closer.
Yeah.
You can really see, I, for one, really enjoy doing wax resists with children because the element of surprise of seeing the ink not being absorbed by the paper, but the wax crayons and oil pastels, resisting, it's quite a beautiful, magical experience for them. I'm going to leave this a little bit in silence just so you can go over some of the artworks and experience it. Continuing with our exhibition, I also wanted to point out this beautiful artwork that I absolutely adore. It just shows you many of the process art making, and kids coming week after week and actually really embracing and applying themselves to the theme of celebration of life. And so here you can see the kids' process started with first folding paper, really looking at their fine motor skills, hand-eye coordination. They've created little origami fish, and they cut strips of paper, and they did all of these little zigzaggy paper springs, and they worked with some chalk and watercolor, and that's how they created this beautiful artwork. And they really looked at, for this particular class, I think they were looking at the beauty of nature and how that is something we can celebrate, and how they have access to nature, and that's a way for them to find a space of freedom and relaxation and so on. Something I'd love to point out is that we've also had many workshops in this space. For the walking tour, we removed all of the spots, but this is what that artwork is about. So we have a community art facilitator called Abigail. She runs a scribble meditation workshop, and these are some of the prints that she has also created and designed, and they are on purchase and in the exhibition as well. And what's lovely is that her prints and all of the proceeds go towards her community group, and also to make her CAF practice a bit more sustainable, as with many of our community art facilitators. And now we get to the exciting part. Actually, I didn't show you this one thing. I'm going to take you guys over here. So, on this side, if you park on this side, I will share a little bit more about this. This two bronze statues was actually created by an art teacher called Vitska. So Vitska is recently started working with Butterfly Art Project. She is a trained teacher and a ceramicist, and we actually decided to put some of her artwork in here because she's been working with many of our community art facilitators, teaching them clay workshops. And through her clay, she's really been looking at developing their skills and their technique working with clay so that they can take that further into their community groups. And so I want to say thank you to Vitska, and we're so glad that she could be a part of the exhibition. And the reason why I showed you that is because now you can see the different clay works that all of the children have done, as well as the community art facilitator. So I'm going to bring you into this room, and technically we're not supposed to pick up the artworks, but I'm going to show you for the sake of the camera. So this is by Madge. It is a Japanese fighter fish. We also have a whale done by Cleon, and we have some very interesting rabbits and cats done by Vicky and Vanessa, as well as Shona, all being community art facilitators. And over here we also have some plates that were done in these clay classes. I think it's so beautiful. And lastly, well, not lastly, actually, we still have a bit to go, but we also have some really interesting tiles that were done. So I find like this was done by Vanessa, and we've got some tiles from many of our different art facilitators that was done by Cleon, and some snails down here. So we have a snail by Shona, which I think is this one, and some plates. And then we have a few more tiles along the side, as well as some animals over here. So we've got a wolf and some more cats over here as well. Those are what our community art facilitators have done. And interestingly, you can see over here, we've got some bowls. And these bowls were done by Charles and his community group. They are from Blowflay, and they are particularly a integrated school. So they work with kids with different abilities, and it's so wonderful to see the work that they've done. So if you can just see like how precious that bowl is, and if you can imagine that this is all done by differently able children. Yeah. And I particularly want to just share a little bit about this. This was done by one of our facilitators' children. Her name is Wendy, if I'm not mistaken. And I just want to read the caption because I think it's so sweet. It says, "Celebrating life reminds me of the birthday of life itself. When I think about life, I think about the heart and the brain. I thank those two organs for keeping my physical body alive. I add a balloon as a reminder to celebrate life." Isn't that magical? Oh. I have another one over here. Maybe I'll bring it over. I'm going to bring it over to you on this side. And it says, "When I think about life, I cannot help but to think about death too. The black in my painting signifies the despair and trauma and hardship that I may have suffered. However, the center white is the light that covers all despair and reminds me that I am still standing, and the sprout resembles new growth that needs to be celebrated." I'm like, a child did that. And just to have that narrative and that story and that sharing, I think that is what makes it so magical. I'd love for you to just show everybody back home also. These are Kandinsky-inspired circles that was done by Krishiani at Westlake Primary School. and where they celebrated color and what color means to the kids. But what I love about it is that that is actually the bottom of, like cans, like the little crate that the cans come in, like Coca-Cola and all of these different kinds of cans. And it actually gets popped down and they use the impression to start with the circles, which I think is so cool. I also would love to show you some of the artworks done by the Blauwvlei group. They come once a week to our art center in Vrygrond, and this is them showcasing their community. And there's some more over here. You can come in. We don't have any workshops running right now, but you're welcome to come and say Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. Yeah. Not this Friday, not this weekend, but the next weekend we'll have some stuff.
And how's the
Yeah.
response been? Good.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. And we actually were only going to plan on running it because it was die, but now they loved it.
But it's not even school holidays.
But,
It's tourist season.
so now they actually want us to extend until the end of August. Come and have a look. Some people are just donation based, and then others are like between 50 to 100.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But all of these artworks are done by children from under-resourced communities.
Okay.
And it's art therapy.
That's fantastic.
So,
So you do that here?
not particularly here.
Yes.
This is just the exhibition space.
So I
One of
see.
the other artworks that I would love to share is our sunburst silhouettes. So here the kids were tasked to think about a magical moment with a friend of theirs and draw their silhouette on a sunset. And that sunset is sort of like representative of capturing that moment that we can hold to ourselves and celebrate. And I think you can like really see the joy in these artworks particularly. One of the programs that we run at Butterfly Art Project is called the Love Bugs program. And these are children that are severely neglected. They come from quite hectic home environments, whether it's any sorts of abuse happening. And what we do is we work quite closely with the parents in ensuring that these kids get documentation going, getting their IDs, their birth certificates, and arranging that they actually get enrolled in school. But as Butterfly Art Project, we know that just putting someone in school is not going to necessarily mean that they stay there. So what we offer is healing art activities and a routine and a rhythm so that these kids can actually build up a bit of a resilience and understand a routine and rhythm structure that enables them to stay at school. And so many of the artworks going forward from here comes from our Love Bug classes. You will see that a lot of the artwork has things to do with like fine motor skills, so working in a 3D format. In this particular place, the goal was to expand the children's artistic horizons, and so usually this class would focus more on simpler forms like drawing and painting, but here they introduced the children to something a bit more tactile. So they taught them a little bit around pipe cleaners and hot glue, and obviously in a very cared for environment, the kids applied and manipulated the artworks into sort of like the night garden, which is like this little cup holding a bunch of flowers. They also do lots of walks in our actual garden in Vrygrond, whether it's like picking up little twigs or trees and letting them think about, the tree of potential. So one of my favorite things here is that the children made an artwork celebrating life, painting the paper with, a few colors, and they glued a twig that they found on a nature walk, and they turned that twig into a tree. So they used the oil pastels to draw out little leaves and items and fruit. And it was really just there to teach them and celebrate the beauty they have around them. You know, by making this artwork, the children were able to express their positive outlook and find inspiration through nature. Also very beautiful artwork. This was done by grade 5 and 6, and I think that was Courtney's class. This one was particularly talking about kindness to birds, seeing the relationship of birds, and teaching the kids to just have, you know, have a little bit of observation skills and looking at birds, and really, again, celebrating nature and life. I'm gonna walk you around here, and Lizandra's gonna take some artworks, but something I also think is so beautiful is some more of the clay work that we've done. So this again is Magic's class, and each child got to do their own little leaves. And we've also got these over here. Again, come by and show them this space. And I would also love you to have a look at these little heart shapes. So yeah, this class was done by teacher Siobhan, and she shared that the children demonstrated their advanced sewing abilities while drawing inspiration from an African queen's courageous act of sacrificing her heart to protect her village children. So using sticks wrapped in materials, so these are actual sticks and they bind it together. The children meticulously cut out their shapes from white fabric, adorned their names with beads, and methodically sewed their names in the center. And that was really just about imbuing personal significance onto their creation. Finally, they created the tie-dye pieces in colors of their choice, transforming them into unique expressions of empathy and creativity. So that theme was really about empathy and creativity, and of course, we teach that through storytelling. For the rest of the exhibition, I'm really just going to walk through, and for you guys all at home to just see the different creations. I'm going to encourage you to come and have a look. As I said, we are now open until the end of August, and the exhibition, I would love people to see it not just as a way for children to showcase their work, but it's really a place for them to instill pride in what they've done over the past few weeks. But it also really is representative of what our children are communicating to us in the world. They are given a theme and they are given the ability to speak and share their story, and this is where you can really find that little insights and those gems. And also one of my favorite artworks of the year, where children looked at what events and days do they celebrate, and they looked obviously at birthdays and Christmas and New Year's and all of these different examples. Another favorite of mine has been this process art making by our community art facilitator Naz, where she had the children pose in a particular fashion, and she took a picture of that and they printed it out, and they then took an animal that sort of aligns with their kind of spirit in a sense. And they also placed all sorts of collage and images around that movement. And it was all about celebrating themselves and celebrating the traits that is part of their personality. Another cute little item that I love to show are these cats. You can just see the different versions of cats. So it just shows how unique we all are. I mean, each child that is given the same leaf, they are tasked to draw a cat and color the background, and I just think it's so beautiful. And lastly, I'd love you to also have one more look over here. Something that our kids do. Our classes consist of multiple sessions. We usually run 8 sessions for one particular art project, because it ensures rhythm and it creates that environment of consistency. but one of the smaller tasks that our teacher Cleon did was like really teaching the kids to like fold and get them together, and that suddenly becomes the artwork, and it's really just indicative of all of the different elements that bring a healing art class together. And finally, I'd love to stop over here. This is a peace mandala that will be continuing. Madge is the facilitator behind this, so anyone can contribute. People are painting all sorts of leaves that they will turn eventually into a mandala, and representing peace and unity. So again, I would love everybody to look up Butterfly Art Project on www.butterflyartproject.org, or find us via email info@butterflyartproject.org, or you can also just find us on WhatsApp on 060-805-6482. That's 060-805-6482. And we welcome you to our space and hope you can meet us online or in person.